Welcome to our deep dive into the book of Haggai.
Haggai.
We're tackling all chapters of this Old Testament book,
Yeah.
which might be short but really packs a punch.
Yeah, it's a small but mighty book, for sure.
It's kind of like an ancient pep talk with some surprisingly relevant lessons on priorities and getting things done.
Yeah. You'll see how the prophet Haggai motivated the people of Judah to rebuild their temple after returning from exile in Babylon.
After coming back home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about bricks and mortar, though.
Right.
This book digs into things like motivation, economic hardship, and the consequences of neglecting what matters most.
Okay, so the book opens in the second year of King Darius of Persia.
Right.
Around 520 BC.
Okay.
The Jewish people are back in Jerusalem.
Yep.
But things aren't exactly going as planned.
Right.
They started rebuilding the temple, but the project had stalled.
Yeah.
Opposition, discouragement. You name it, they were facing
lack of resources, all of that.
That's where Haggai enters the picture.
Yeah.
So he doesn't tiptoe around the issue.
No, he doesn't.
He confronts them head on.
Right away.
He asks, is it a time for you yourselves to dwell in your paneled houses while this house lies waste?
This is a great question because imagine you're in their shoes, you've just returned from exile, you're trying to rebuild your lives, and suddenly you're being told your comfy homes are a problem because the temple isn't finished.
Yeah.
How would that sit with you?
I know I'd be a little bit defensive probably, especially after everything they've been through.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it seems like their priorities are completely out of whack.
Yeah.
They're focused on their own comfort while God's house is in ruins.
Right.
But Haggai doesn't just stop there.
No.
He connects this neglect to their economic struggles.
Yes.
He talks about their wages going into bags with holes.
That's right.
What?
It's such a vivid image.
Right. It's such a weird image, too.
It is kind of a weird image.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So it's not just about this building project.
It's bigger than that.
It's about the relationship with God.
Exactly.
And how that affects every part of their lives.
Yeah, it's affecting their everyday lives.
Wow.
Right. That's huge.
Yeah, and you think about it, it's as if they're focusing on their own material comfort.
Okay.
But it's actually sabotaging their prosperity.
That's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Especially in our modern world, we're all about getting ahead.
Exactly.
But Haggai's making a direct link between their spiritual state and their economic reality.
It's all connected.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this bags with holes metaphor.
Okay.
What's Haggai really saying here?
Well, I think he's painting a picture of futility.
Okay.
Imagine working really hard.
But never getting ahead. Constantly feeling like you're leaking money. That's the image he uses to show them how their misplaced priorities are impacting every area of their lives.
So their spiritual neglect is literally costing them.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
Wow.
It's costing them.
Okay, so it's not just about rebuilding this structure.
Right.
It's about rebuilding their relationship with God.
Yes.
And that, in turn, will then impact their prosperity.
Exactly. Their well-being, even.
Wow.
It's all connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Haggai doesn't just point out the problem.
No, he doesn't.
He gives them a clear call to action.
Right.
Go up to the mountain, bring wood, and build the house.
Yeah.
This isn't just about manual labor.
No, it's not just about the physical work.
It's about reestablishing their connection with the divine.
Yes.
About putting their actions where their priorities should be.
Exactly. Actions speak louder than words, right?
Right.
He's calling them to step up.
Yeah, and it seems like God's ready to meet them halfway.
Oh, absolutely.
He doesn't hold back on the promises if they obey.
Right.
It's almost like a divine contract.
Yeah.
You do your part, and I'll do mine.
God's faithful to his promises.
What are some of those promises?
Well, God promises his presence, saying, I am with you.
Wow.
He promises future glory, stating that the new temple will be even more magnificent than the former one.
Wow, so even better than before.
Even better than before.
Okay.
And on top of all that, he promises peace.
Okay.
So God makes it very clear.
Yeah.
He's invested in this project.
He is all in on this.
He is all in.
Okay, so what happens?
All right, so...
Do they listen?
Well...
Do they actually get to work on the temple?
Here's where it gets inspiring.
Okay.
The people, spurred by Haggai's words, and maybe a little worried about those bags with holes,
but
actually obey.
Wow.
They resume work on the temple, and this act of obedience sparks a spiritual revival among them.
That's amazing.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
It seems like taking action even when it's hard can be the key to getting unstuck.
It's that first step.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so they're not out of the woods yet.
Not quite.
In chapter 2, Haggai delivers a second message.
Yeah.
Addressing their lingering doubts and anxiety.
Yeah, they're comparing this fledgling structure to the grandeur of Solomon's temple.
Of course.
Probably feeling a bit underwhelmed.
Right. They're looking at this new temple and probably thinking, this isn't what we envisioned.
This isn't what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
This isn't as impressive.
Right.
Right.
So Haggai acknowledges their feelings.
He does.
But quickly shifts to encouragement.
Yes, offers words of hope.
So it's like he's saying, don't get hung up on the past.
Don't get stuck in the past.
Focus on the present and the future.
Yeah. This temple you're building is part of something much bigger.
He also speaks directly to Zerubbabel, the governor of Judah, and Joshua the high priest, urging them to be strong and keep working.
That's right, to keep going.
He even prophesies about a future shaking of nations and ultimate victory.
Right.
He paints this epic picture.
He does.
Of what's to come.
Yeah.
Emphasizing that this temple is part of God's
plan.
Grand scheme of things.
Yes, his grand design.
But he doesn't stop there.
No.
In the latter part of chapter 2, Haggai gets into some deeper spiritual matters.
He does.
Using this rather curious analogy to make his point.
Right.
The whole holy meat situation.
Oh, yeah, right.
I have to admit that one caught my attention.
It's pretty memorable.
Can you walk us through that? What's going on there?
So Haggai asks the priests a series of questions about ritual purity. He asks if holy meat can make other food holy simply by touching it.
Okay.
They say no.
Makes sense.
Then he asks if someone unclean by touching a dead body can make food unclean by contact.
Right.
They say yes.
Okay.
So it seems a bit random.
It does seem kind of random.
But he's building to something.
Okay, so where's he going with this?
Well,
what's the connection to rebuilding the temple?
I think he's making a point about the contagious nature of both holiness and impurity.
Okay.
He's saying their disobedience and neglect of God's house affect every aspect of their lives. Just like contact with a dead body can make something unclean.
Oh, I see.
So he's linking their lack of prosperity directly to their spiritual neglect.
It's like a spiritual principle.
Yeah.
With very real-world consequences.
Absolutely.
Their harvests have been meager.
Yes.
Their wine vats less than full.
Not as much wine.
Haggai wants them to see that their actions have directly impacted these outcomes.
Right. He's challenging them to consider their ways.
To really think about it.
Yeah.
To remember the times when they weren't prioritizing God's house and how that affected everything.
Exactly.
So he's offering them a chance to course correct.
Yeah. He's giving them a way back. To get back on track.
And he ends the chapter on a hopeful note.
He does.
Promising them blessings if they continue to obey.
From this day I will bless you.
Wow.
He tells them.
It's a powerful mix of challenge and encouragement.
Absolutely.
Reminding us that even when we mess up,
yeah,
God is ready to guide us back to his path.
That's the beauty of grace.
Okay, so we've covered 2 chapters, and it's been quite a journey.
It has been.
But we're not done yet, right?
We're not done.
There's still more to unpack in chapter 2.
Yes.
Particularly when it comes to Zerubbabel.
That's right.
And his role in this whole rebuilding effort.
Yeah, he plays a key role.
Okay.
A crucial role.
I'm ready to dive into that.
All right, let's do it.
What does Haggai have to say to Zerubbabel in this final message?
Yeah.
What's so important about it?
Well, first, he reiterates this promise to shake the heavens and the earth, overthrow thrones, and destroy the strength of nations.
Wow.
So he paints this really vivid picture of global upheaval and change.
Big things are coming.
Big things are coming.
All right, so here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
He says, in that day, I will take you, Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel.
Yes.
And will make you like a signet ring.
Yeah.
For I have chosen you.
It's powerful.
What do you make of that? Especially since we don't hear much about Zerubbabel's personality.
Right, we don't get a lot of details about him.
The signet ring seems like a curious choice of symbol.
It is.
For a leader.
Yeah, it's a powerful statement, though.
Okay.
A signet ring in those days represented authority, identity, and ownership.
Okay.
Kings and officials use their signet rings to seal documents, signifying their approval and authority.
For like God is saying, Zerubbabel, I'm putting my stamp of approval on you.
Yes.
You're my chosen leader.
You're my chosen one.
But it's even more profound than that.
Right.
By calling Zerubbabel like a signet ring, God is signifying his special favor and protection over him.
Absolutely.
He's saying, you are close to my heart.
Yes.
You are precious to me. I have set you apart for a special purpose.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It's interesting that we don't hear much about Zerubbabel's personality or specific qualifications.
We don't.
There's no long list of accomplishments or virtues.
No, it's not about his resume.
It's almost like God is saying, it's not about your charisma or your resume, Zerubbabel. It's about your willingness to be my instrument.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's about saying yes to God and being willing to be used by him.
That's powerful.
It is.
So what can we learn from Zerubbabel's example?
Yeah, what can we take away from this?
What leadership qualities did he embody that we can cultivate in our own lives as we seek to build God's kingdom?
That's a great question.
What do you think?
Well, I think the first and most important quality is obedience.
Obedience.
Zerubbabel listened to God's message and acted on it.
He didn't wait.
He didn't hesitate.
He didn't make excuses.
He didn't make excuses or try to bargain.
He just did it.
He simply obeyed.
Wow. So it's a good reminder that true leadership isn't about power or personal gain.
It's not about that.
But about surrendering to God's authority and aligning our will with his.
Beautiful.
It also takes courage to lead people who've been through so much, who are facing opposition and discouragement.
Absolutely.
Zerubbabel had the guts to say, we're going to rebuild.
We're going to do.
We're going to restore. We're going to trust God.
He had a vision and he went for it.
It's about stepping outside our comfort zones and taking risks.
It is.
Trusting that God will equip us for the journey. But it also takes perseverance. Rebuilding the temple wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't a simple project.
There were setbacks, delays, and moments of doubt.
Yeah, there were times when they probably wanted to give up.
Of course.
But Zerubbabel kept moving forward, fueled by God's promises and the vision of a restored Jerusalem.
It sounds like leadership is a marathon.
It is.
Not a sprint.
It's a long game.
There will be obstacles and challenges.
Yeah.
But true leaders keep going.
They do.
They stay the course.
Yes.
And they keep their eyes fixed on the goal.
That's the key.
And in this case, the goal was about bringing glory to God.
Yes.
Seeing his kingdom come and being part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that we're not the heroes of the story.
It's not about us.
God is.
That's right.
And our role is to point people to him.
Yeah.
Create space for his presence.
Yes.
And be instruments in his hands to accomplish his will.
Beautiful.
So as we reflect on Haggai's message and the challenges and opportunities facing our world today, let's remember Zerubbabel's example.
Let's remember his example.
Let's be people of obedience.
Yes.
Courage.
Yeah.
Perseverance and humility. Let's say yes to God.
Yeah, just say yes.
Even when we don't fully understand his plan.
Even when it doesn't make sense.
Let's step up and lead.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's tough.
And trust that God will work through us to accomplish amazing things.
Yes.
That we could never achieve on our own.
That's the beauty of it.
Why?
It's not about our own strength.
It's about his strength working through us.
Exactly.
As we embrace our roles as builders and leaders, as we align our lives with God's purposes, I believe we'll experience the same blessings.
Yeah.
He promised Zerubbabel and the people of Judah.
He's a faithful God.
His presence.
Yeah.
His provision, his protection, and his peace.
And his peace.
It's a powerful thought.
It is.
It reminds us that Haggai's message isn't just ancient history.
Right.
It's about living lives of purpose and meaning today.
Absolutely.
Embracing the challenges God sets before us and trusting that he will equip us for every step of the journey.
He will.
That's encouraging.
It is encouraging.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the book of Haggai.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've been encouraged and equipped to go out and build your own corner of God's kingdom.
That's right.
And remember, even if you feel like a small and insignificant signet ring, God can use you.
He can.
To make a profound difference in the world.
Absolutely.
Now, I know you're eager to hear what other insights and connections our expert has made.
Right.
We'll be right back with the final part of our deep dive into Haggai.
Looking forward to it. As we've been talking about Haggai's message, it's striking how relevant it feels to our modern lives. This idea of rebuilding our own temples, it really makes you think.
It does, doesn't it? What areas are we neglecting, both individually and collectively? What foundations need to be strengthened? Haggai doesn't just talk about piety in the abstract. He connects their relationship with God to their everyday lives, their work, even their harvests.
Yeah, he's essentially saying if you're out of alignment with God, it will show up in your daily life. It's a sobering thought,
right,
but also empowering.
Because it means we have the power to change our circumstances.
Right.
By shifting our priorities.
Exactly.
By realigning ourselves with what God values.
Yeah.
But how do we even begin to do that?
That's where Haggai's call to action comes in.
Okay.
Go up to the mountain, bring wood, and build the house. It's a reminder that faith isn't passive. It requires action, commitment, a willingness to roll up our sleeves and get to work. And notice how he emphasizes collective effort, all the remnant of the people.
Right.
It wasn't just about individual piety. It was about communal responsibility.
It's like he's saying, this isn't a solo mission, folks. We're in this together. There's a sense of shared purpose. They need each other to rebuild, both physically and spiritually.
Exactly. In a world that often feels increasingly individualistic and fragmented, Haggai reminds us of the power of community, of working together towards a common goal.
And not just any goal,
right,
but a goal that transcends our own self-interest.
Yeah.
Rebuilding the temple wasn't just about creating a beautiful building. It was about restoring their connection with God, about reestablishing a place of worship and sacrifice, about reclaiming their identity as God's chosen people.
Absolutely. They were creating a space where they could encounter the divine, both individually and collectively. It's a reminder that we're all called to be builders, to contribute to something larger than ourselves, to create spaces and communities where God's presence can be felt.
And when they obey, God responds. He pours out his blessings, his presence, his protection. Yeah, I am with you, he tells them. And not only that, he promises to make the new temple even more glorious than the former one, to fill it with the wealth of nations and to establish peace in their land. It's like he's saying, when you align yourselves with my will, when you prioritize what I prioritize, I will move heaven and earth to bless you and make your efforts fruitful.
It's a powerful reminder that God isn't a passive observer in our lives.
No, he's not.
He's actively involved, working behind the scenes, orchestrating events, and showering us with his grace when we choose to partner with him.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to another key takeaway from Haggai, the importance of trust in God's timing and provision. The people had been back in Jerusalem for nearly 2 decades before they started rebuilding the temple in earnest.
Right, think about that.
Yeah.
They waited a long time.
It's easy to look back and wonder, why did they wait so long?
Yeah.
But perhaps there were lessons to be learned during that time of waiting. Perhaps God was preparing their hearts, refining their motive. That's a great point. And we see this theme of waiting and trusting in God's time throughout the Bible.
Right.
Think of Abraham and Sarah waiting for Isaac, or the Israelites wandering in the wilderness for 40 years before entering the Promised Land.
Sometimes the waiting seasons are just as important as the seasons of action. They're opportunities for growth, for refining our faith, for deepening our dependence on God.
I love that. And when we finally do step into those seasons of action, when we're aligned with God's will and empowered by His Spirit, we can be confident that He will provide everything we need to accomplish His purposes. It's not just about working hard, it's about working smart, working in partnership with God, trusting that He's going up before us, preparing the way, and providing the resources we need to succeed.
So what mountains might Haggai be urging us to climb today? What seemingly impossible tasks might we be putting off because we're afraid, overwhelmed, or simply unsure of where to begin?
Yeah, what are we avoiding? What dreams have we buried? What passions have we stifled? What acts of service have we delayed because we've convinced ourselves that we're not capable, that we don't have enough time, that it's someone else's responsibility?
Perhaps as we delve deeper into those questions, as we prayerfully consider what God might be calling us to do, we'll discover that He's already equipped us with everything we need to answer that call.
I think you're right. Maybe as we step out in faith and obedience, we'll experience those same blessings that God promised to the people of Judah, His presence, His provision, His protection, and His peace.
Wouldn't that be incredible? To witness the power of God unleashed in our lives and communities as we align our priorities with His will and dare to believe that nothing is impossible with Him?
What would happen if we all individually and collectively decided to take Haggai's message to heart? What if we all committed to rebuild in our own temples, to prioritize in what matters most to God, to working together to create a world that reflects His love, justice, and beauty?
It's not just about rebuilding physical structures. It's about rebuilding lives, communities, and ultimately a world that's broken and in need of restoration. It's a message that resonates across the centuries and speaks to the deepest longings of the human heart, the longing for meaning, purpose, connection, and a sense of belonging to something greater than ourselves.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vision. Let's allow Haggai's words to challenge us, inspire us, and empower us to become the builders that God has called us to be. We're not alone in this journey. We have each other, we have God's Spirit guiding us, and we have the promise of His blessings as we step out in faith and obedience.
Now, I know you're eager to hear what other insights and connections our expert has made. We'll be right back with the final part of our deep dive into Haggai. Welcome back to our deep dive into the book of Haggai. We've been unpacking its message of rebuilding, prioritizing, and aligning ourselves with God's will. And in this final part, I want to focus on a figure who plays a key role in this story. Zerubbabel, the governor of Judah, he's mentioned throughout the book, but in chapter 2, he really takes center stage.
Yeah, that's right. God speaks directly to Zerubbabel in chapter 2 with words of encouragement, affirmation, and a remarkable promise. It's more than just a casual mention. It's a personal message from God to this leader facing a monumental task.
Okay, remind us who Zerubbabel is and why he's so important in this story.
So Zerubbabel was the grandson of King Jehoiachin, who was taken captive to Babylon decades earlier. When King Cyrus of Persia allowed the Jewish exiles to return to Jerusalem, he appointed Zerubbabel governor of Judah.
So he was leading the charge to rebuild their homeland and reestablish their society after years of exile. That's no small feat. He must have been facing incredible challenges, political maneuvering, logistical nightmares, leading to discouraged and traumatized people.
Absolutely. And in the midst of all that, God speaking through Haggai singles Zerubbabel out with a powerful image. He says, I will take you, Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel, and will make you like a signet ring, for I have chosen you.
We talked about this earlier, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole signet ring thing. It seems like an odd symbol for a leader.
Well, a signet ring in ancient times was a symbol of authority, a mark of identity, and an instrument of power. Kings and officials used their signet rings to seal documents signifying their approval and authority.
So it's like God is saying, Zerubbabel, I'm putting my stamp of approval on you. You're my chosen leader.
Yeah, it's even more profound than that. By calling Zerubbabel like a signet ring, God is signifying His special favor and protection over him. He's saying, you are close to my heart. You are precious to me. I have set you apart for a special purpose.
It's interesting that we don't hear much about Zerubbabel's personality or specific qualifications. There's no long list of accomplishments or virtues. It's almost like God is saying, it's not about your charisma or your resume, Zerubbabel. It's about your willingness to be my instrument.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about saying yes to God and being willing to be used by Him.
So what can we learn from Zerubbabel's example? What leadership qualities did he embody that we can cultivate in our own lives as we seek to build God's kingdom? Well, I think the first and most important quality is obedience. Zerubbabel listened to God's message and acted on it. He didn't hesitate, make excuses, or try to bargain. He simply obeyed. It's a good reminder that true leadership isn't about power or personal gain, but about surrendering to God's authority and aligning our will with His gain. It also takes courage to lead people who have been through so much, who are facing opposition and discouragement. Zerubbabel had the guts to say, we're going to rebuild, we're going to restore, we're going to trust God.
Exactly. It's about stepping outside our comfort zones and taking risks, trusting that God will equip us for the journey, and it takes perseverance. Rebuilding the temple wasn't easy. There were setbacks, delays, and moments of doubt, but Zerubbabel kept moving forward, fueled by God's promises and the vision of a restored Jerusalem.
It sounds like leadership is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be obstacles and challenges, but true leaders keep going. They stay the course, and they keep their eyes fixed on the goal. And in this case, the goal was about bringing glory to God, seeing His kingdom come, and being part of something bigger than themselves.
Right. And I think there's one more quality we see in Zerubbabel. Humility, despite being governor and receiving God's favor. He doesn't seem to have a big ego or a thirst for recognition. He understood that his leadership wasn't about him, but about God working through him.
It's about recognizing that we're not the heroes of the story. God's. And our role is to point people to Him, create space for His presence, and be instruments in His hands to accomplish His will.
As we reflect on Haggai's message and the challenges and opportunities facing our world today, let's remember Zerubbabel's example. Let's be people of obedience, courage, perseverance, and humility. Let's say yes to God, even when we don't fully understand his plan.
Let's step up and lead even when it's hard, and trust that God will work through us to accomplish amazing things that we could never achieve on our own as we embrace our roles as builders and leaders, as we align our lives with God's purposes. I believe we'll experience the same blessings he promised Zerubbabel and the people of Judah: his presence, his provision, his protection, and his peace.
That's a powerful thought. And it reminds us that Haggai's message isn't just ancient history. It's about living lives of purpose and meaning today. Embracing the challenges God sets before us and trusting that he will equip us for every step of the journey.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the book of Haggai. We hope you've been encouraged and equipped to go out and build your own corner of God's kingdom.
And remember, even if you feel like a small and insignificant signet ring, God can use you to make a profound difference in the world.